The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, Sandy Vicani here with Insurance Agency Marketing Services. I wanted to say thank you so much for this Monday morning and attending this great webinar that we have with John Inting and Inting Financial with a great company, National Guardian. Again, this is Sandy Vicani. I head up the Life Division here at IAMS and wanted to go through a couple house cleaning items with you first before we hand it over to John Inting. So here at IAMS, we have something called an IAMS Business Builder. And with that, when you refer an agent over to IAMS and that agent contracts with us, we send you a $50 check as a thank you. When that same agent places business with us, whether that's life, annuity, MedSup, long-term care, combination thereof, you get paid 20 basis points on each piece of placed business thereafter. That is indefinite. There's not the first 6 months, it's not the first 12 months. As long as that agent is writing business and placing business, you get 20 basis points on that piece of placed business. That does not come out of your commission. It doesn't come out of their commission. That comes from IAMS as a thank you for entrusting us with that referral. We also have for all of our agents something called a marketing reimbursement account. And with that marketing reimbursement account, for every $100,000 of placed business, we put in $100 in that account. That account is used for business expenses. So for example, if you submit an invoice to us because you purchased a computer or you did a seminar program, something similar to that, anything that has to do with business-related expenses, submit that invoice. We pay up to 50% of that as long as that money is in that marketing reimbursement account. There's not a time frame on that. It continues to grow and transfers each year over into the new year. For all of our new agents, we have a great incentive called a New Producer Builder. And what that does is, in your first 6 months, if you place $100,000 of business with us, again, life, annuity, MedSup, long-term care, combination thereof, you can choose a $750 cash bonus or a 2-year producer website that we create and manage. If you'd like to hold off because you think, I'm going to place $300,000 of business with IAMS, then what you can do is you can choose a $1,500 gift card, a $2,000 marketing reimbursement, where we put that $2,000 in that reimbursement account we just spoke about, or you can choose a Social Security program and 3,000-piece mailing. If you'd like to hold off, you just think you're going to go gangbusters here in your first 6 months with IAMS and place $500,000 with us, again, that's life, annuity, MedSup, long-term care, combination thereof. You can choose a 4,000-piece mailing and seminar coaching with the top producer of ours, Dave Pimper, a 5,000-piece mailing and seminar coaching with another top producer of ours, Matt Gill, or you can choose my favorite, which is the Ritz-Carlton Travel Rewards Getaway, where you plan your own destination travel. Again, that does not come out of your commissions. That comes directly from IAMS, and just a big thank you for selecting IAMS to do business with. We also have very strong back office support. We try to save you time by having strong back office support and help you work smarter, not harder. How we do that is several different ways, whether we're here to assist you with case design. If you give us a call and let us know your client's information on what you're working on, we can, help you with illustrations, whether it should go into an annuity or a life product. Forms at your fingertips. We send out any form that you need off of our website. You too can also run quotes and get forms. We help with life and annuity quotes, any type of sales coaching that you may need. When everyone gets contracted with us, we set you up on a paperless contracting system. So in the future, there aren't any additional forms that you need to fill out. Just give us a call and we'll get you contracted. And I think important out of all of this, really important, is the submission to commission. So what happens is we send you, or once you send us an application, we scrub that application, make sure nothing's missing, fill in any information that we need to, make sure that we get it submitted to the carrier the same day. We follow that case through the underwriting process. We touch that every 3 days to make sure that it's staying on track to get you paid in the policy place just as quickly as possible. We also have a strong creative marketing department, and with our creative marketing, whether you speak with Jacob, Sean, Jill, they can assist you with any handouts and flyers, postcards. If you need a logo design, we can create that for you. A personal website, if you have one that maybe needs refreshed or you don't have one, we can create and manage that for you. Any online newsletters, social media consulting, that's huge. If Facebook advertising so big right now, if you're unsure how to do that and you'd like to get into it, let our creative team know and they can assist you with getting that completed. Our IAMS website, I am in this every day, all day long. It's www.iamsinc.com. And you're able to run term and UL quotes, pull forms, look at our current industry link and news, look at our annuity grid where, what's the top 5 fixed annuities. You're able to go and look under training for our webinar schedule and any recorded webinars that we have. And then, of course, our great sales resource library that can offer you different mini videos, as well as questionnaires that you may need for your clients. So it is a great tool to have. Cannot stress enough. If you haven't registered, gosh, go on there and register and take a look and see what we have to offer. So I'm going to send out a poll question here. By checking yes, it's just stating that you would like some additional information. So when the DOL ruling came out, we thought it was extremely important for our agents to make sure that they retain their relationships with their clients so their clients don't have to go outside of you. So we created IAMS Wealth Management. With the DOL ruling and then the delays and then the eventual reversal of that DOL ruling, so much has changed over on that wealth management side that there's a lot of questions. What we wanted to make sure that you as an agent was able to do is improve your client retention by offering a full range of products and services. You're viewed differently by your clients as well. You're viewed as a fiduciary. We want to make sure that we get those questions answered for you. Do you have to do anything right now? Do you have to have a 65? Don't you? If you don't, how are you able to retain this sale or this commission? So our IAMS Wealth Management team has all that knowledge. They'll be more than happy to get those answered for you. Great team over there. I can't stress enough with all the changes, checking yes and finding out how, if anything, affects you right now. Oh, I'm sorry about that. We have a Life and Annuity Academy. So another poll question, again, checking yes, is just stating that you want additional information. The one that we have coming up is actually this week, October 17th through the 19th. John Inting, who you will hear from shortly, he is there. He goes over this great opportunity with National Guardian Life. We have agents all over the United States attend. We pay for this, so there's no out-of-money pocket to you. We pay for airfare, lodging, meals. We go over different sales ideas and strategies. We try to, and hopefully do, unravel indexed annuities, how they work, when's a great time to take a rider, different threats and trends and client objections and how that's going to affect your business and how it will in the future. Different seminar systems, whether you are wanting to do a seminar where you provide cookies and coffee in a library to, a more formal seminar system with a sit-down dinner. We go over life case marketing and what we do to try to assist you with your life business, whether it be single premium life, National Guardian products, the infinite banking products and concept. We go over different wealth transfer tools, software tools. Our creative team speaks at this as well. Again, we have close to 1,000 agents apply. We take between 35 and 40. We have about 3 of these per year. So by checking yes again is just stating that you would like some additional information, and we'd sure like to get that to you. So in addition to the great commissions, the trip incentives from other carriers, IAMS here also offers our own trip, and that next year will be August 25th through the 29th at the Ritz-Carlton in Naples, Florida. We have a long qualification period. We'd really like to see as many agents and their guests there as possible. So our qualification period started January 1st, 2018, goes all the way through June 30th, 2019. In order for you and a guest to attend, you would need to place $3 million of annuity premium with us. You can choose to place $1.5 million of Medicare SEP premium, $2.25 million of single premium life, $250,000 of life target premium, or $600,000 of long-term care premium. It's such a great opportunity. You'll see how here at IAMS, the IAMS employees and the agents, we feel like we're just a large extended family. Only way to get here is for you to make sure you're contracted with us and start placing business with IAMS. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to John Inting. John Inting is just one of our top producers. He does an amazing job both for life and annuity, and especially with his National Guardian Life Funeral Trust product. So John, if you'd like to take it over.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. A beautiful Monday morning. I hope it's beautiful where you're at because it's raining like crazy in Columbus, Ohio. But thanks for having me this morning, Sandy. On your slide, it's showing all the slides on the side. So just so you know that if you want to hit slide presentation from current slide, there you go. So good morning. Yeah, excited to be here this morning and talk to everybody about the NGL Funeral Trust and how we use that in our practice. I like to start out the webinar just by telling everybody that, you know, I am an advisor. I'm in the field every day. We're doing seminars and having people come into our office. So I'm not sitting in a home office, you know, preaching from the tower that you should go out and sell this product. I'm just going to share with you how we've implemented it into our business, and it's been a great revenue generator for us through our production with IAMS. So we'll talk about that today, and then what we'll do is we'll cover the opportunities that exist in the marketplace for this product. We'll talk about the trusts themselves. We'll talk about the product that we use to fund the trust. And Sandy, you can move on to that next one for me. And then we'll talk about the presentation ideas and tools, give you a little bit of knowledge today that you can work with immediately, and then I'll give you a little background on the company itself and what they've done for our business and how we value them from the perspective that they always do what they say they're going to do, which is kind of unheard of with any company, but we're really appreciative of the support that they've given us over the years. So on the next slide, we'll see we talk about the opportunity that exists. This product was brought to me about 14 years ago by a mentor I had in the business. At the time, I didn't know what a funeral trust was. I was busy selling annuities and life insurance, and we were really doing well in our business. But my mentor said to me, he said, hey, you know, this is something that people are doing, and you might as well understand it and use it in your business. And so, like I said at the time, I didn't know anything about it, but I love opportunity when it presents itself, and the only way to find out if it'll work is to jump in head first, which is what we did. So what we did with this product is we realized that everybody does planning, and in order to get anything done significant, you have to do that planning. So you got to consider the options that are available for the problem you're trying to solve. You got to see what plans are available to be able to implement. And then you got to find out where to get the money from to be able to implement the plan. And as we go through this today, I'll share with you how you can make that a pretty easy transition. But I think to get a real idea of what the value of this is, I'll share a personal story with you about me. You know, funeral and final expenses really aren't any different when we start talking about them. And someone's going to need to determine the services and pay the bill when somebody passes away. Sandy, you can move on to the next slide for me. So what happens with that is, you know, it's going to be one of two things. Either the deceased is going to have their affairs in order prior to them passing away, or that requires planning, of course, or like in my personal situation, it can be left to the survivors afterwards. And my personal story has to do with my father. My mom and dad divorced when I was 2 years old. I come from a family of 4 other siblings and myself. And I've always been the entrepreneur in the family. So anytime anything happens, it seems like my phone's the one that rings. And that wasn't any different on January 21st of 2011 when I found out that my father had passed away. And I found myself sitting in a funeral director's office, and he was asking me all kinds of questions like, what was my dad's mother's maiden name? What was his highest rank in the military? What was his favorite flower, his favorite hymn? And these were questions that unfortunately I didn't have the answers to because my father and I never had those type of conversations. But what it did make me realize pretty quickly is that all these plans that I'd done for my clients over the year, they had real value because my clients' children or spouses weren't going to be sitting in there not knowing the answers to things. They were going to have everything organized and in order to be able to get the funeral completed. So through NGL, they have a couple different choices. You can either plan and pay for the funeral, so you go into a funeral home and pick out your casket and everything, or you can set aside funds for your final expenses and anticipate what that cost might be and get those dollars protected. And that's more the side that we work on with National Guardian Life, which they call that the final expense plan. So we always ask our clients how much they think a funeral will cost, and we hear numbers all over the board. One of the things we hear a lot today is people saying they're going to be cremated, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but that has become very huge in our country, cremation. So we listen to them carefully, and then what we'll tell them is, hey, if there's a better way to do it, would you be interested in learning more? And of course, everybody wants to do better. So the answer we get to that question is yes. And then we'll move forward in the process of leading them down the road to talk to them about the funeral trust. So the opportunity is huge. In a national survey, 72% thought it was a good idea to pre-plan, but only 64% had taken the steps to do the planning. So basically what that means is people think it's a great idea to get their funerals pre-planned, but they don't take the steps to do it. And what we realized is we think the issue becomes, you know, if you're a couple and you wake up one morning and it's beautiful outside, you don't look at your spouse and say, hey, why don't we run down to the funeral home today and pick out our caskets? Because the human mind can only contemplate your own death for about 11 seconds, and then you quit thinking about it. And Sandy, you can move on to the next slide for me if you would. And your clients aren't any different. We're talking to the same people you're talking to. I'm sure most of us on this call are working in that either pre-retiree to retiree marketplace. So the market's huge. Over the next 20 years, 80 million people are expected to file for Social Security benefits. And if you think about that, by 2025, there will be almost twice as many seniors as there are today. You know, when I talk to young agents that are in the business, I'm going to be 55 here in a few months. I'm talking to the guys that are, you know, 25 to 30 years old. What an exciting time to be in this business. You're never going to run out of prospects as long as you're working. So 69% of all Americans older than 65 are going to need some type of a nursing care, and the cost of that care can be 68 to 78,000 a year. It's rising at a 4% annual growth rate, and many people who need to long-term care will need to qualify for Medicaid. So that's where we start the conversation with the client. We'll say to the client, hey, you know, 92% of all Americans don't have any type of long-term care funding in place. And if something were to happen to you, you're going to have to spend your assets down. So why don't we share with you some ideas on how you can protect those assets from going to the nursing home and instead have them here for your family and to take care of your final expenses. And that's why we use the NGL insurance products and funeral trust. They're going to give us that financial protection of life insurance with the advantages of the irrevocable funeral trust. They're going to allow the client to plan ahead and set that money aside today to know those funds are there for their final expenses. And then by using the trust to hold the money for the funeral expenses, we're effectively spending that asset down. And what that means is it's not countable if they go in to try to qualify for Medicaid. That money is exempt from giving it to the nursing home, which is huge. So we'll talk a little bit about the trusts themselves and the benefits of planning with an NGL irrevocable trust. And you'll see on the next slide here, they give protection from creditors. The benefits are 100% income tax free. The funds are available immediately. So if someone passes away, I'll share it on the couple slides from now, but within 48 hours, that money is at the funeral home. The trusts are free. And the reason we have free in big capital letters here is we have a lot of clients that we know that will go seek out elder law attorneys, which we recommend they do it for complicated situations. But if you walk into our elder law attorney, for example, down the street from us, he's more than happy to do an irrevocable trust for you. It's $7,500 to get the party started, and then you go from there. So with National Guardian Life, because these trusts are free, you can really hammer home that point with your client and also let them know that everyone's going to qualify for the trust assignment. We're going to use the death proceeds for the funeral expenses. We're not going to have to worry about probate costs and delays. And real important here, the funds are totally portable. Well, why is that important? Well, I deal with a lot of clients who are retired that have kids, and if their kids take a job down in Florida and the grandkids move down there with them, we have some clients who say, you know what, we're going to go and live in Florida. So they can take that plan, and no matter where they go, they can use it. Unlike if they pre-planted a funeral home here in Columbus, Ohio, and then they end up down in Florida and they pass away, that can be a very convoluted situation for them. So how do these irrevocable trusts compare to traditional savings instruments? I'm not going to read each line of the graph here, but you can see that every place that we're looking for a yes in this program, we're pretty much getting that with the irrevocable funeral trust compared to life insurance, annuity, regular savings accounts, or CDs. We're right where we want to be in the sweet spot with this product. So how does the trust work? It's really pretty simple. What happens is you help the client find the asset to reposition. You buy an asset policy that's called an asset guard life insurance policy. So it's basically a single premium life insurance policy, but unlike traditional single premium, if you put $15,000 into this plan, you're not going to start with $25,000 of death benefit. You may start with $15,500 of death benefit. But once we've bought the plan, 45 days after it's issued, they're going to assign that policy to the irrevocable funeral trust. And what's going to happen there is that money is going to continue to earn interest. That interest is interest simple credited daily. And so what will happen is that money grows. The funds are going to be tax-free when they pay out to take care of the funeral expenses. So when a client passes away, it's a real simple procedure. We just, we've written so many plans, we usually get 1 or 2 of these claims a month. The most recent one we got was really simple. The client called us, told us that her mom had died. We asked for the name of the funeral home. We called the funeral home. We got their fax number. We called National Guardian Life. We gave them the funeral home fax number, the policy number, and then at that point we were out of the equation. They deal directly with the funeral home, and within 48 hours that money is deposited at the funeral home. Now, I'm going to say something about that before I talk about those excess funds paid to the estate there at the bottom. The funeral, whether you know it or not, a funeral home will not provide any services to you at all until they are paid for. Not the showing, not the memorial service. They want those funds in hand. And so this makes it really nice. The funeral home receives that money, and then you can just do your planning without any worries of, do I got to write a check, or what do I have to do to get the money? Now, if you write a plan, and let's say there's $1,000 extra left in there that you didn't spend on the funeral, that has to be paid back to the estate of the insured, because the whole reason for this in the first place was for them not to have any incidents of ownership of the plan, so that it would be able to not be claimed against them in the event of a nursing home stay. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in detail in a few minutes. So there's 2 different trusts that they offer with National Guardian Life. The first one is the Funeral Expense Trust. I'm going to talk about Ohio for a minute. I see we have a lot of people this morning on the call, so we'll show you what your state limit looks like. But in Ohio, we're allowed to put up to $15,000 per individual into this funeral expense trust. And what that'll do is it'll help them exclude that asset immediately if they're trying to qualify for Medicaid. And they're applying in the next week. I get our elder law attorney a lot of times will call me and say, hey, we got somebody, the husband's in the nursing home, we're going to try to qualify for Medicaid. Can you write us a National Guardian Life Trust so we can get $30,000 off the books, 15 on each spouse? And then what happens is that trust will pay for those funeral costs. And again, like I said, any excess funds have to go back to the estate of the insured, because while they're alive, we're trying to get that money out of their name basically and protect it from that nursing home spend down. So they also have the NGL Estate Planning Trust. Now this one you can put up to $100,000 per person in. And this gives you the ability to exclude the assets after a 5-year look-back period. So if you put the money in there today, 5 years from now, if they both went into a nursing home and you had done $100,000 on each spouse, you'd have $200,000 plus all the growth, and it would be 100% protected from a nursing home spend down. Now, if they only own the estate planning trust, you have 2 options at death. You can go ahead and just pay for the funeral out of other funds, or you can have them take the funds out of the NGL Estate Planning Trust, the same way I showed you on the other slide, pay the funeral home, and then any excess funds will come back to a designated beneficiary of the estate. So the difference there is we can actually name a beneficiary and nothing will go back to the estate of the insured. So when I do our agent academies like we have coming up this week, actually, I get this question from the advisors. Well, when do I use which trust? And so on the next slide, you'll see I broke it down for you here. If you're going to use the funeral expense trust, it's great for crisis planning. We have a case we're working on right now. Husband's in the funeral home. We referred him to our elder law attorney. The first thing he told us is get in the house and get $30,000, 15 on each, into this funeral expense trust, because we're going to try to qualify them for Medicaid. So if Medicaid's possible right now or within 5 years, maybe they're spending money at the nursing home and they still have assets, but they know if that person stays in that nursing home that they're going to run out of money. Be a great opportunity to show them how to protect that money. And then a lot of times I do a lot of public seminars. We'll have clients after we do all of their planning for them that just want to put the money away and know that it's put away for their funeral expenses and know that that money is protected now. So with the estate planning trust, this one's really nice because, you know, Medicaid's a non-issue. Maybe now or 5 years from now or never. Maybe they have a lot of assets. I like to use an example of a couple teachers that I have that are clients, and we're about 4.5 years into this process with them. But when I met them, they were, and brought them on as a client, they were very adamant. We're never buying long-term care insurance. We have a lot of assets, but in the event that something would happen, we would like to know that our kids are going to at least receive something. So we funded $100,000 on each one of them. That was 4.5 years ago. So in another 6 months, that $200,000 plus the growth we've gotten over the last 5 years is 100% protected from the nursing home. And they just wanted to easily transfer a limited amount of wealth to their children. So we did that for them. And there's a lot of times you'll talk to people that say, hey, I'm going to leave money to my church or my favorite charity. And if you explain to them that while that's a very noble thing to do, if you get sick and go to a nursing home and the nursing home takes all of your assets, there's not going to be any money there for the charity. So if you know you've got a set amount in your heart you want to give to them, let's put it in the estate planning trust and start the clock ticking. So then the event something does happen to you, we've got it taken care of. And if nothing happens to you, we've still got it taken care of. And that's the real opportunity, because you can end up picking up some really nice sized cases into that estate planning trust. So let's talk about the product we use to fund it. The product that we use is the NGL Asset Guard. So it's basically, like I said, just a simple single premium life policy. It gives you a fixed rate. We're going to put it into that funeral trust to give them that protection so that they know that money is there for their final expense planning. Now, like I said, there's a lot of people on here today, so I'm sure we have people from all over the country. Here's your individual state limits, and I'll show you on the next page. We're going to talk about Ohio first. So if you see there under the funeral trust, we have, oh, go back one for me, Sandy. We lost the 100,000 on the state. There you go. Right there's good. So in Ohio, we have 15,000 that we can put into the funeral trust. And on the estate trust, we can put 100,000. Well, if you look at all the states, the majority you can do the estate planning trust, but in a couple states, you can't do the funeral trust. So if you live in, example, Nebraska, and you're only allowed to put $4,916 into the funeral trust, that's the amount you want to put in there. NGL used to let you overfund that, but they've come out with a ruling. Whatever that state limit is on the funeral trust, that is the max you are allowed to put in there. But let's say that you have a client who says, well, 4,916 is awesome, but that's not going to cover a $15,000 funeral. Well, no, Mrs. Jones, it's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the other 10,000, we're going to put it into the estate planning trust. And while we will have a 60-month look back, let's get that clock starting to tick right now so that we have the most protected for you that we can. Now, if you live in a state like Florida or Nevada, you're not allowed to use the funeral trust at all. But what you should say to the client is, even though we can't use the funeral trust, we can use the estate planning trust. Let's put however much you think your funeral will be, and let's get the clock ticking on the asset. That's the key thing. Let's get the clock moving to start protecting this money. So you can go on. You can go to the next one, Sandy. Go ahead. Go ahead. There you go. So what expenses are paid by an irrevocable trust on the last slide? There. Oh. Sandy, I think you're going the wrong way for me, hon. There you go. Right there.
Okay.
What expenses are paid for by an irrevocable funeral trust? You can see there that pretty much everything that you would want to be covered is covered, even down to the transfer of the deceased. You know, if you're on vacation in Florida and you pass away and you live here in Ohio, we got to get you back for the funeral, and that's not inexpensive, but it would be covered under this plan. Okay, Sandy, we're good? Thank you. So now what we're going to talk about today is we're just going to talk about the single pay. That's all we use in my practice here. We don't do multi-pay, so just for the sake of keeping the webinar at a good time frame, we'll talk about the single pay. You can offer your client a growth rate up to 2.25%. They only have one health question on the application in order to qualify. It'll issue from 0 to 99, so you can write it on anybody. And then there's only one health question on it. If your client answers no, they're going to get a standard issue. If they answer yes, they're going to get a guaranteed issue. And the numbers aren't going to be a lot different on the benefit that goes to the client, where you're going to see the differences in your commission structure on the standard versus the guaranteed issue. So all single pays are immediate full death benefit, and it's going to increase daily with simple growth. So every day that contract is having interest added into it. Now, if you don't like paperwork, you're going to love this product, and it could not be easier to do. You literally have 2 pieces of paper and your state replacement form, and you will be done with the application. I'd like to touch on that a minute, because when I wrote my first annuity application back in 1993, I wrote it on the owner of a dry cleaner in a town called Marion, Ohio. And what I couldn't believe, number one, is that someone would let me walk out of their business with a $25,000 check, but also the application was 3 pieces of paper, and the last piece of paper was a receipt for the client. And so, as you know today, whether you're writing annuities or life insurance or long-term care, managed money, whatever you're doing, it can sometimes be 30 to 40 pieces of paper to get the deal done. With this one here, it's the application, the disclosure of which trust you're using, your state replacement form, and you're moving on down the road with the client. So here's the first page and what it looks like. That's just going to be all their basic information. They got their health question down there that's listed. At the bottom of the page, which you'll see on the next slide, you're going to see where the applicant is just going to sign the application. That's just the bottom of it. You're going to sign off as your agent. Of course, put your agent number on there so we can get you paid. And then the next page, you're going to be using one of 2 of these. That's the receipt for the client if you pick up cash. You can give that to them at the time. And then you're either going to be using the funeral expense trust assignment form or the estate planning trust assignment form, depending on which one you put them into. But on the NGL funeral expense trust form here, I'll show you something real important at the very bottom, which you'll see here. So let's say you go in to meet with a client, and that client says, hey, my husband's in the nursing home. It looks like we're going to have to try to qualify for Medicaid, and we're doing this immediately. I don't want to wait 45 days for you to put this policy into the irrevocable trust. They can sign right here, and it says, hey, I hereby make this effective immediately. Issue it. Put it in that irrevocable trust, because I'm applying for Medicaid next week and I need that money off the books. We have the ability to do that for the client. So here's the health question. We kind of blow it up so you can see what it looks like. It's going to be your standard disqualifier for most products that you would write. In the event they answer any of these yes, then you're going to go to a guaranteed issue with the product. So presenting it to clients. When we present this to clients, especially when we have new agents, I always tell them that, you know, the easiest thing to do is go out and do annual reviews with clients you think might be a candidate for this. And if it were me, I would walk into that annual review with the client and I would say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Would you agree that all the advice I've given you in the past has worked out the way that we intended it to? Well, these are your good clients. They're going to tell you, yes, it has. Well, there's something that we haven't covered that I've learned about that's really important, and what we're going to do today is we're going to find a way to get this implemented for you. So I'm already assuming that we're going to do this with the client. And then I'm going to start talking about the funeral trust funding. I'm going to stress those benefits of planning ahead. I'm going to use this exact phrase, and I use it with every client. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if you really think about it, we're not even buying anything theoretically. What we're doing is we're taking money that you have that is countable to be spent down if you go into a nursing home, and we're going to move it into a position that makes it uncountable and you don't have to spend it at the nursing home. That will get your client's attention. And then you tell them, look, this can be used with any funeral home. And the reason we say that is if you go prepay with a funeral home in your area and that funeral home goes out of business, it gets sold, you don't like the new owners, the next generation gets it and runs it into the ground, you could be stuck. But with this, because we don't have to assign it to any particular funeral home, when you pass away, wherever your kids want you to go or wherever you're living, whether it's Florida, Ohio, we can use it there. Now, here's something real important. I know that there are a lot of agents out there that are seeing a lot of clients, and this product is great for a 1035 exchange on existing life insurance. Your clients, the majority of them don't understand if they own an old life insurance policy that say has $12,000 in cash value and has a death benefit of $15,000, that if they die, they don't get both of those numbers. They get whatever's bigger. So if I'm a client and I've got $13,000 in cash value, which is my money, I could take that out today if I wanted to, and the insurance company is only going to pay a $15,000 death benefit, the insurance company is really on the hook for $2,000 because that other money is your money in the account that they're paying out to you. So what we will explain to a client is, hey, if this is for your final expenses and you get sick and go to a nursing home, they're going to make you spend it in that life insurance policy. That's cash value. That's an asset. Doesn't it make more sense to 1035 exchange that cash value into the irrevocable funeral trust, get that money protected day one, and have it growing at a simple interest rate daily? And I'm telling you, if you bring that up, if you look at these old contracts, you can pick up a lot of business doing the 1035 exchange. And then we got to close the sale. That's how we get paid in this business. But you are going to give your client that peace of mind of knowing that they've planned ahead and that those funds are protected. So where do you find the money? Like I told you, you're working with existing assets. So whether they've got a CD at the bank, money market account, other insurance, which is great for the 1035 exchange. Maybe you have a big annuity base where you didn't set up trails on those annuities, and that money, you got paid on it quite a while back, and it's just dead money laying there. You know, use a 10% penalty-free withdrawal. Pull the money out. Yeah, you got to pay the taxes on it. Who cares? Somebody's going to pay the tax at some point, but you can start protecting those assets for the client. Again, we say to our clients, and the reason we say it to them is, you're theoretically not even buying anything. What are we doing? We're just repositioning money from the countable side to the uncountable side. So here's the marketing brochures that we use with National Guardian Life. The ones that flank that Understanding Medicaid, so the Funeral Expense Trust and the Estate Planning Trust. I'm going to tell you, this is just a trifold, and I'll tell you how well it's written for the average client. I had a client that I met with, and I may be off on the numbers a little bit here, but they had about $70,000 in cash value with Nationwide Insurance Company, and the death benefit was about $85,000, and they wanted to talk to me about protecting that cash. So we went through everything. I got through the presentation, and they looked at me and they said, well, John, you've done business with us before, and you know we like to think about it. So we need to think about it. And I said, that's not a problem, but you know how I am as well. If you want to think about it, I'm fine with it, but I'm going to call you tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I need a decision from you while it's fresh on your mind. This isn't something we want to linger. So I left them this brochure. The next morning at 9 o'clock, my phone rang in my office, and she said, "Hey, John, this is Mary. I just want to let you know we read the brochure. We want to go ahead and set the appointment with you." So if you can get this in their hands, it's just a great trifold, very easy to understand, and it'll help move them along the way to get the sale closed. So one of the things that we give every client that does the irrevocable funeral trust with us is we give them this planning guide, and I'll tell you why we do it. Most clients do not have this written down anywhere. This is all the information that if my dad would have left this for me, I could have took this in and just handed it to the funeral director. And that's what we tell our clients when we give this to them. We say, "Hey, you know what, Mrs. Jones, if you were to pass away next week and I had never met you before, but you had purchased this plan and you had this document here completed and with your policy, without ever meeting you, I could take care of all your funeral arrangements. I could walk in the funeral home, everything they're going to want to know is in this document right here." And then we have the client fill it out. We leave it with them when we write the application, because I was always taught in sales, if you leave the client a task, it keeps them more engaged in the process. So we leave this them. We say, "Hey, when we bring your contract back, we expect this to be completed. We're going to put your policy with it, and then you're good to move on down the road." So here's what the rest of it looks like on the inside. Again, it's pretty detailed, but it's also pretty easy for the client to fill out and to have ready to put with the contract when you get back. So I want to talk a minute about National Guardian Life. This isn't a paid endorsement. I'm just telling you, I've been in this business since 1987. And one of the things I love about the company is I've never had one issue. And when I say that, I mean I haven't had one issue in 14 years. From submission to getting paid to having them pay who they're supposed to pay. It is such a seamless process, and they're very dedicated to this. Is what they do. They're very well capitalized. They have a good rating. They've been around for a long time, and if they tell you something, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to stand behind it and they're going to do it for you. So when you become contracted, you're going to see here that you'll be able to go on, log into their website. In my opinion, and you're going to see on the next slide, it's a very well put together website. Everything from a PowerPoint presentation that's for the consumer, like the one I showed you earlier where you buy it, you buy the policy, it goes in the trust and how it pays out. You can run your commissions. By the way, if you submit an application today and it was a cash app and you overnighted it to them or however you do your business, the day they get it, they'll get it issued for you, or at least by the next day, and then those commissions will be in your account. So from submission to commission, they're flawless. It has all the brochures. You can get them custom made with your company information on them. It's just a very well put together website. And if you're new with the product and you're in a client home, that 1-800 number you see there, have it on your speed dial, because you can call them and you will get a live person, and any question you have while you're in front of the client, they will answer it for you right there. We've had a lot of new agents tell us that it's been very valuable to them in the appointment process. So why sell the product? We showed you the stats. Your clients are thinking about it. They're just looking for someone to give them a solution and motivate them towards getting it done. Great income opportunity. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. The trusts are free, no fees, and there's no other professionals that are probably advising your clients on this. Do you know we ask every single client if anyone's ever talked to them about an irrevocable funeral trust, and in 14 years, I've never had one tell me that they have. So no one's talking to them about it. It's a niche product. The funds are totally portable. You can use them at any funeral home. We just talked about the great company that issues it. Gives your clients that peace of mind that their planning's done. And then again, if you hate paperwork, I promise you'll love this product. And if you don't do this, eventually someone else is going to do it for your client, and that may even be the local funeral home. So why should they get the business if you can get it? So we'll talk a little bit about the compensation. I know most of the people I associate with in the insurance business are real fond of their free time and their vacations. So I base this on taking 2 months off a year. If you just had two couples and they didn't even fully fund it at 10,000 each, they just did 10,000, or I'm sorry, at 15, they just did 10,000 each, and you could pick up $40,000 a month in premium. You're going to pick up about 40 grand to your bottom line. I'm a big believer of having different income legs to my income stool, and this is a great one. We count on this one every year to pay all of our office expenses, and it hasn't let us down yet. So again, if you look at the next sheet or slide and you look at that top left-hand corner, so we're looking at the face amount of 0 to 60,000. If you go down to an age 61 to 65, and you were to pick up a $20,000 deal on a married couple, you're at 13.31% commission. Now, I know this insurance business pretty well, and all I've seen people do is lower commissions in the insurance industry. I don't know where you can go out, do a great job for a client, and make 13.31% commission. And even if they're not healthy, you can still write it and make 8.2% commission. So once you're contracted, we'll get this grid out to everybody so that you can take a look at what your commissions look like. So they do nice trips. I know we're getting a little bit late in the year here, but you know, anything's possible if you put your mind to it. The 2019 trip is to Jamaica. I've been on the National Guardian Life trips. They treat you, you know, like a king and a queen. And one thing I will recommend to you is anytime you make a sales conference, and this is kind of how I got to where I'm at in my business, I always would seek out the people who were the top producers. They're always willing to tell you about their business and how they got there. And then I would just pick their brain, and I'd come back to my office and I would start implementing things that they said they did. Some worked, some didn't. But at the end of the day, something worked because they were the top producers. So whether you're at this one here or you make the IMES conference, find those people, and they'll be more than willing to help you out to grow your business. So some of the biggest challenges, obviously getting comfortable with the concept. In 1993, when I sold that $25,000 annuity to the dry cleaner owner, that was the first annuity I ever sold in my life, and I thought that was a huge deal. You know, we've sold millions and millions and millions of dollars of annuity premium since then, and it's just because we've done it day in and day out, and we're better at it than we were before. So get comfortable with the concept. Remember, your clients believe it's a good idea. Learn how to present it. It's a very easy product to learn and present. Stress those benefits to the client, and then keep it on the top of your mind. Every client, every day. It's a real simple question. Have you prepaid your funeral? It's a yes or no question to your client, and then that'll be able to help you move forward in explaining it to them and presenting. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is go ahead there, Sandy. It might be a slide. There we go. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this guide for beneficiaries. Once you license with National Guardian Life through Insurance Agency Marketing Services, we can make this available to you so that you can go get it branded with your company information. But the reason that I did this is real simple. We had a big client, about $500,000 in annuities with her. She passed away. I reached out to her daughter and I said, hey, we probably need to set an appointment for you to come in. And the daughter said, oh, John, don't worry about it. We've already talked to the guy down at the bank that handled Mom's CDs, and he said he'll take care of everything for us. Well, what happened there is I lost a $500,000 asset, and I made it a determination that that wasn't going to happen to me again. So I created this beneficiary guide booklet. And what we did is we went out and we saw all of our clients. Go back one slide for me, Sandy, if you don't mind. Yeah, so we went out and saw all of our clients. We updated all of their data, and I'll show you how we did that. And then I want to tell you about our successes of getting this out into our clients' hands. Number one, every one of our clients told us thank you, and it was an awesome tool to be able to give to their children. But in that process, in a 6-month period, we wrote $1.5 million in additional annuity premium, $200,000 in single premium life, and $150,000 in additional National Guardian life business. And it's not because we're the smartest guys in the world. It's because we had a system to follow. And again, anytime you practice, you'll become pretty good at anything. So the next slide that she was on, you're going to see here, this is what ours looks like. It's real simple. A guide for my beneficiaries. For help settling my estate, please call my advisor at Intang Financial Services. In other words, don't call the guy at the bank first. So we tell our clients, make sure your kids know that this is here, make sure they know that we're your financial advisor, and make sure that they call us first. So that's what the front looks like, and again, you can get it branded to yourself. This is kind of fuzzy, it looks like, but basically I'm just thanking them for the opportunity to work with them. Tell them we've assembled a team of professionals to get them all the information they need, and I personally guarantee their satisfaction in the process. And then on the next page is going to be the organizer itself, and this is nice because what you tell the client is what I tell them with the funeral trust. If we complete this guide together, if I had never met you before, I could take this and I could help your kids settle your estate even if I'd never met you. So we're going to update all of the information. We're going to get all the information about the kids. We're going to ask for the kids' emails because we want to start sending out correspondence to them. You can go to the next slide there for me, Sandy. This is where we're going to update all their financial information. If you look at question 8, and you'll see it's on that right-hand side. It says, have you pre-planned your funeral? And it's a yes or no question. So if they tell us no, we're not going to launch into a sales pitch on them, but we're definitely going to note that. But if they say yes, we're going to say, well, do you have any money that you would like to know is 100% protected from the nursing home in the event you would need care? And if they say, well, yeah, like they normally do, we're going to make a note out to the side. Again, we're not going to launch into a sales pitch, but we're definitely going to come back with some solutions for that client. And again, this is just going to be the remainder of it. We're getting all their information. And this is what helped us write all that additional business. I know you think your clients tell you everything, but they don't. And I'll give you an example of that real quick. It just happened to me last week. I have a very good client, been with me for 10 years. We did an income plan for her 10 years ago. We just turned on the income on the annuity. And I was sitting there with her and I said, well, how are you doing on savings in the bank? And she said, well, I've still got about 25,000. And then she got quiet and she said, well, I'm not exactly telling you the truth. I have another account that I have 116,000 in for a rainy day. So again, not everybody tells you everything. This brings everything out to the table and allows you for some more planning opportunities with your clients. This is just a notes page on the organizer on the back of it. Now, before we go into questions, Sandy, and if we have any, I'll be glad to answer them, but I do want to put this out to everybody on the webinar. Once you're licensed with National Guardian Life through Insurance Agency Marketing Services, we do have a sales incentive that we announced. And what's going to happen with that sales incentive is if you submit and get issued 3 applications with National Guardian Life, we are going to give away a $1,500 grand prize on December the 14th. So any applications issued and submitted, once you have 3 of those paid, you'll get tickets that go into the hat. So if you have 3 apps, you'll get 3 chances. If you write 10 apps, you'll get 10 chances. And then what we're going to do on December 14th, We're going to pull one of those names out of the hat, and that person's going to get a check for $1,500 for their effort and for them participating in that sales contest. So I want to make sure I threw that out there, Sandy. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, and while we're going through questions, I want to put another poll question out there, and that would be if you'd like to get contracted with National Guardian Life. Again, great opportunity. If you're already contracted with IMES, just check yes, and we can get that completed for you. If you're not contracted with IMES, please get contracted. We'll send out the contracting paperwork if you check yes, and we'll make sure to get you contracted so you can submit business and try to earn that additional $1,500 that we're offering. We do have a question, John, is if there is a power of attorney, are they able to sign the application, do you know, or how does the power of attorneys work with National Guardian Life?
Yes, so that's a great question. And right on the website, there's actually a tab that says signatures, and it lists on how you should have everything signed. But to answer the question, your client can be in a nursing home, and that spouse or that daughter or that son can sign the application for the client. If they answer yes to any of the health questions, so if they answer yes and they are going to be a guaranteed issue, then that person who has an insurable interest, whether it's the spouse or the child, they can just sign the application for that client. So if they're a guaranteed issue, they're in the nursing home, they can't sign, they can sign for them. But yes, you can also sign with the power of attorney for that client.
Okay, so agent states that they're in North Carolina. Can they have the client, can they have one client in each of the trust?
Yes. Yes, and so yes, you can. You can have one client in each different trust if you would like. You can have them each own a irrevocable funeral trust. One thing I will tell you is it's $100,000 per person. So as an example, you write $15,000 funeral trust. You go back to deliver it, and they're like, "Hey, you know, we were thinking we'd like to do that estate planning trust and put $100,000 in that." Well, now you can only put 85 in that one because it's a $100,000 combination between the two. But if you get a case where it's more than 100,000, please reach out to IMES and we'll go to work for you to see if we can get the company to accept a little bit more for you.
Any other questions before we end this webinar? If you do have additional questions, what is National Guardian Life's rating, John?
I think we saw it on there. I think it's A-. I'm not looking at the slide, but I'm pretty sure that's what we're at.
They're an A- rated company, strong carrier, great financials.
Yep.
Everyone will receive this recorded webinar in a link. You'll have that by later on this afternoon. I'll reach out to each and every one of you to make sure if you have any additional questions, we can get those answered for you. Make sure that we get you contracted. John, can't thank you enough for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you like hearing what John says and you want additional information, great way to do that is to register for our Life and Annuity Academy. You can meet John personally and you can talk with him in much more detail. Again, that's with our Life and Annuity Academy. I wish everyone just great success this week. Please have a safe week. Again, thank you so much for your time, and everyone have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.